This unassuming building on an industrial estate in the heart of Sudbury, Suffolk, has been the home to Gainsborough Silk Weaving Company since the 1920s. The company was established in 1903 by Reginald Warner, an enterprising weaver who went on several grand tours to create an extraordinary archive of inspiration fabrics. Sudbury was once the centre of the silk trade, with many of its residents working in the factories. However, today, the company is only one of three still remaining in the town.
Sudbury was the centre of the British silk industry, although Macclesfield would argue that they were, but anyway, we leave that. And maybe up until 10 years ago, I could have just shouted out of the door, I want a weaver, I want a warper, I want a winder, and I'd have two or three people, because Sudbury was silk. You know, there was nothing else here. But now there are only three remaining companies, and we need to take people on and train them because they're just not available. So we want people who are interested in what they're doing and want to buy into it. So it is a question of taking them on and training them up. And of course, that leads us to younger people, and it's part of our plan. There are people there's one guy who's been here 50 years, there's somebody recently retired who's been here 60 years, and that type of thing. We don't necessarily think they'll be here for 50 and 60 years in this day and age, but we don't want people who come for 2 or 3 months and then move on, because the skills that we teach and which they pick up are in many ways hidden skills, so you wouldn't absolutely notice it, but you couldn't just train someone in a week to do most of the jobs in this company.
Gainsborough prides itself on combining both modern and old technology in order to create the rich fabric it is known for. Awarded the Royal Warrant in 1980, the company has produced fabrics for royal palaces, stately homes, and most notably upholstered the carriages for the royal weddings of Charles and Diana in 1981 and William and Catherine's in 2011. The company's team of staff carry out all the processes from start to finish. In an annex from the main building, the yarn is dyed. The yarn arrives with a protective gum layer over it. Once that is rinsed and dyed, the looped bundles are hung up in the transparent vats that circulate the steam of the dye. In order to achieve the exact colour, the dyeing team use a spectrometer, which tells them how much dye is needed and enables them to test the end result. The dyeing process takes around 4 hours and then goes into the drying cupboard for 2 days. Once dried, the hanks of dyed yarn are transferred to the neighbouring weaving shed, where the yarn is first wound onto the combs before being woven into fabric. One side of the factory is a preparation area with rows of metal-spoked winding frames. The other side is home to 20 looms. These include manual Hattersley looms dating from the 1920s to the 1960s, as well as 3 electronic ones which can be used in conjunction with computer-aided design. Once the yarn has been wound onto the combs, in order to make the bobbins for the warp, the yarn is secured onto winding machines and the yarn is then wound onto bobbins.
Winding the skeins ready to go onto the warping mill, we are given a bag of skeins, we have to count them out and we have to work out how many bobbins are needed for the warp and then work out the time, and then they're all being timed at the moment.
When the bobbins are ready, the warping can begin. Gainsborough has 2 warping mills, one from the 1930s and the other from the 1960s. The warp is passed through small reeds and then hooked onto the drum. Once the warp has been wound, it can be taken to the loom.
Warping is made up of like maximum of 300 threads, which is put up on the creel, and it has to be entered up, ready and to be warped. The warping instructions, you get instructions, could be like for up to 8,960 threads. So you have to like work out your sums, work out your sections, and then just warp. You do need to be good at maths, but you've also got like a calculator, so you double check all the time because you can't really afford to make a mistake.
And have you ever made a mistake?
Oh yeah, couple. Like I've missed out a section, so they've had to like remake another small one. So yeah, I do make mistakes.
Dressing the loom involves attaching the new warp to the remains of the old one. A knotting machine ties every thread, which takes approximately half a day.
Basically, this is the figure harness, this is for the pattern. It's exactly the same as this loop, so we'll be doing little patterns. Basically, that sort of work is what goes through that one. But obviously, once I've hung it all up, I've got to enter a warp and a reef, which is another couple of weeks' work.
In the days before computers, designs were produced on the loom using pattern cards.
Chunk right there will be one set of cards that will create a pattern for the jacquard looms. So these are all hand punched, and that's probably like 80 years old, if not more. But we still use them today, and we still will remake them if they've torn, and if there's like a new design, we'll hand punch them. So we're still using the old technique.
Where before we used to do very simple designs, we now do quite complex brocade work, which not very many of the companies do, and it's a trademark of Gainsborough really. We try to keep the old archives alive, and we just try to update them a little bit more. You can't live in the past, so you have to move with the times and move with the clients. They don't want old-fashioned style fabrics anymore. They want different colourways and a slightly different twist, and that's what we're able to do here, is give a little bit of a different slant, a different twist on the fabrics that we produce, and that's what people tend to like now.
As well as making and designing bespoke fabric, the design team are often tasked with restoring and newing an old fabric.
Basically, this is a historical piece which is coming for restoration, and the client's extremely specific about, they want it as accurate as possible, which means this is the original sample, and it's absolutely huge. The actual repeat size on this is about 2.5 meters by 27 inches wide. And so literally what I'm doing now is copying this in pick for pick. So where on the woven fabric I can see it goes like this, I literally have to draw it in like that. So the first stage is to do a tracing. So I did a tracing of this on acetate. That acetate's then scanned in, and the reason why it's so pixelated now is because to make my job easier, the way it's woven is effectively 12 dots per inch along the warp. So I've taken the resolution way down, which is why you have this horrendous pixelation. So unfortunately I'm only able to use this as a guideline for how the design is positioned, and because it's so big, to scan it in even is sort of a process in itself, trying to get all the different sections to work properly together before then putting it on the CAD system to be able to work with. So something like this takes about 5 solid weeks at least to do, and trying to get 5 solid weeks here is pretty difficult, just because there's always several things going on at the same time.
Although technology is advancing and tastes have changed, Gainsborough still maintains its heritage, meaning that the quality of their product remains the same. By recruiting younger people, they are ensuring that these processes and skills are not left in the past.